Welcome to Journey to Inner Wisdom. I'm Crystal Cotto Sullivan, wisdomologist and your host. I've been talking to people about their journey to inner wisdom, as well as exploring many tools that assist us on our journey. As many of you have experienced, there are transition times that we go through. Sometimes we get stuck, sometimes we don't realize we're in transition, and sometimes it just kind of knocks us over. I've been more or less following the alphabet for my podcast over the last year and a half, or at least it's kind of following the alphabet. I've meandered a little bit, and today I'm actually going back to R for recreation, or I like to think about it as recreation and the importance of recreation to recreate ourselves. And since we are into the summer, it is a time for more recreation, and so here we are. Today, I will be speaking to Sarah Simone.
Hi, Crystal.
Welcome, Sarah. I'm so glad that you could join me. Before we begin, let me tell people a little bit about you.
Absolutely.
So Sarah is an outdoor and travel enthusiast, currently finishing her degree in recreation and leisure. Her unique career path as a massage therapist has taken her around the globe and inspired a life of learning, living to the fullest, and connecting with others. She has certifications in RMT, osteopathy, Reiki, reflexology, Thai massage, John Barnes myofascial release, overnight wilderness guiding, swift water rescue, wilderness first responder, and has recently published in Pathways, the Ontario Journal of Outdoor Education. And I have to say, it's a great article, Sarah. I read it and I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know if is it online somewhere, because we can put a link to that. I would love people to read that article.
It is posted online through their website. I'd have to look if it's live now or if it's if it goes live in a little bit.
So we'll put the link.
Definitely get you the link to it.
Okay, perfect. That's perfect, because it was really a great read. Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was very raw and very real, and it was very cathartic putting those words down on paper.
I'm sure it was, because it sounded like a really intense experience for you.
It was definitely life-changing.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that so that people will want to read it. I don't want to give it away.
Absolutely.
So today we're talking about recreation and leisure. But before we talk about recreation and leisure, you've had a very interesting journey in your life. You've kind of meandered around. You've lived in many places up until this point. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit about your journey and some of the lessons that you've learned on that journey.
I would love to talk about it. I don't even know where to start, because so much of my journey was just following my intuition and on that path and trusting in it. And I think it really stemmed initially from my career. So I love numbers, and when I'm talking about doing my degree, I will be finally graduating from this program 20 years after starting it.
Wow.
I went to school and I did my first year, and for many different reasons, I did not go back and finish. And I went into massage therapy afterwards. While I was in massage therapy, I was telling my teacher how I wanted to travel and see the world, but I don't come from an affluent background. I knew I would have to work my way around the world, or work to be able to provide that for myself. And she came back to me with the idea and the option of, as a massage therapist, it's a transferable skill no matter where you live. And if you worked for a company that, operated out of a lot of different locations, you can always transfer. And so serendipitously, the first part of my journey, when I did finally jump into the waters of being a massage therapist, I took my career to the Cayman Islands. And at that point in time, this is 18 years ago now. The only thing I knew about the Caymans was money laundering and everything you see from movies. It's a Caribbean island that is full of who knows what. And like we didn't have the internet the way we do now
Yeah.
to explore it and research it. So I had to go on the word of other people I had met that had been there and the word of the people that were hiring me as to like what I was walking into. And so I trusted in the process
Hmm.
and I jumped in, and moving to that island shifted my view of how you can live
Hmm.
and like what's important in life. And I say what's important in life because I find um, how I viewed living before was very much about, you know, work hard, get married, have kids. There was this cultural expectation of get it in the world, start working your career, you're going to have a defined path, and, you know, um, succeed in these preconceived ideas that our culture puts out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I landed in this beautiful tropical island, and everybody's from everywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I start to learn the value of connection and
Mm-hmm.
like connection to people who are like-minded, who, you know, their goals are also to provide for themselves and live a healthy, well-balanced life, but do so in a way that they get to actually see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, after I was done work, I didn't take my work stress home with me. And I actually enjoyed the space I lived in
Mm.
rather than the space I lived in being more work.
Right. Mm.
So, I don't know, I feel like I'm like a little off topic, but
No, no, I think there are some great lessons there in terms of, our life journey because it really resonates with me having just returned from a month in England and Ireland. And the reason I did that is because I'm connected to people there. And
yeah.
it was from early in my career when I lived in Africa.
Mhm.
And it was really the same thing. It wasn't, it was about, yes, taking care of ourselves and making a living, but then it was also about connecting with people, learning about other cultures, learning about the world and seeing the world.
And the best lesson I think I've learned about the world in I lived in the Caymans, I came back, I lived in Windsor, Essex for a little bit. I was in Toronto for 4 years. My career developed in Toronto quite a bit, and then I moved to the Middle East, where it was a roller coaster of a year, gaining a lot of experience in my work career and an interesting view on like a social and cultural level of what's important.
Hmm.
And the connections become in every location that I've been. The places and the spaces are beautiful.
Hmm.
You can find beauty in just about everywhere you travel.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes it is the people that you share it with.
Yeah.
And those connections, it's crazy, but like doesn't matter how long it's been between them.
That's right.
I pick up the phone and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Yeah, let's plan a trip together." And I'm off going somewhere like halfway across the world. My family jokes like they don't know anybody else who literally could throw a dart at a map and tell you somebody that lives there.
Yeah, and
So
those are such great connections, aren't they?
they
Again,
are.
that's
They're
exactly,
genuine.
yeah. We haven't seen, well, I was in Ireland in 2019, but John hasn't seen our friends probably for I must be 16 years. And we just picked up like and not on a superficial level at all. I mean, you know,
No.
like a pretty deep level in terms of conversations and what life is about and what we're up to. And I love that. And our friend in England did the same thing, just really meaningful connections that
They allow you to be vulnerable because you've shared something very intimate
Yes.
that you haven't necessarily been able to share with other people in your world because
Mhm.
they aren't
Mhm.
living that experience with you.
That's right. That's right. And interesting too, because my friend had said to me she loves when I visit because I'm non-judgmental. And I thought, Interesting, I had to really think about that because am I judgmental in my, regular life here? Are the
Hmm.
relationships different here? So it really kind of challenged me to think about that because sometimes I can be pretty judgmental, but there's something about being vulnerable with people that takes you to a different level of relationship, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And coming back to recreation, it's something that you can share with people and to find those experiences of vulnerability through activity or even recreation that's not active, because not all recreation has to be like physically active. Recreation can be just simply sitting having a glass of wine
Yes.
and
Yes.
chatting. It's really about that time and space where there's no holds on you. You're doing it freely of your own volition and because it makes your soul sing.
Yes. Yes. And it's so interesting I think this is such an important topic because in our Western culture,
Mhm.
we are so work oriented.
Mhm.
And I even noticed the difference when I was away for the month of people and how they do take leisure time. They do recreation much more than we do. It's like you work and then, okay, work's done.
Mhm.
Whereas
It
often we bring work home, we keep the work going.
We're always available on our mobile
Yeah.
devices. You can call me at the drop of a hat, and like I'm expected to answer when I work for a corporation, and um, there's no boundaries
Yeah.
of workspace and personal space,
Yeah.
I find, or the boundaries are very blurred in Western culture
Yeah.
of like workspace and personal space. You are paying me for 40 hours a week. I am happily working and working hard in those 40 hours a week. If you are expecting me to do more than that, I should be like, I I should be, I can't think of the right word, but like
Compensated, recognized.
compensated, thank you.
Yep.
Compensated for my time. I shouldn't be expected to be available at your every whim
Yeah.
because now that cuts into my personal and leisure time.
That's right.
And I feel like for a hot minute we have lost lost that value of leisure time, and we don't value it in the same way as like historical cultures have valued it, and we don't look at it the same as historically as cultures have looked at it, and it's almost like there was a point that we've come to, and I feel like we're kind of moving away from it, but where we didn't feel maybe we deserved it
Mm. Mm.
because of like the working class and the different classes in society and where what's like available and like the value of an individual's time and like the hierarchy we have in society too.
Mm. Mm. Well, and it's interesting because the couple of things. One is, I think some of it is um, when people came to North America, there was a real shift in terms of work ethic. And
Hmm.
there was the sense of if you're not working, you're up to no good.
Yeah.
And so the work ethic then is what is the virtue. And I think that is really part of the North American ethos. Then the other thing I wanted to say is I don't think for many people that COVID helped because when people started to work at home, there were no boundaries whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I know that some people had a really difficult time with their schedule because instead of taking breaks, it was like they were sitting at their desk and working right through. Whereas in an office, somebody interrupts and you have a little chat, or you go out and you grab a coffee,
You
or
have the water cooler talk and
exactly, or the
yeah.
photocopy machine or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people really struggled with creating a schedule that worked at home as
And the
opposed
boundaries
to
that way it
work,
could
work, work,
adhere
work,
to.
work. And pardon?
And the boundaries that they could
Exactly,
adhere to.
exactly. Setting those boundaries for
Mhm.
sure, for sure. So I just want to pause for a moment because one of the things that I always find really interesting and important is to look at where words come from.
Mhm.
And so just to look at the meaning of recreation, which you've kind of alluded to, but recreation in the Merriam-Webster dictionary is refreshment of strength and spirit after work.
After
After
work.
work.
Mhm.
And a means of refreshment or diversion or a hobby.
Yeah.
So the other thing that's interesting for me is where the word recreation comes from, because it's really recreation. And so I think that's really important to look at what that even if we talk about recreation, it's really about recreating our energy and our spirit.
Recreating that connection with yourself,
Exactly.
whether it's that connection with yourself through other connections with people,
Yeah.
that reconnection with yourself through other activities that you find um, enlivening to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the word actually comes from an Anglo-French word, and which meant to make new or to restore or to revive. And then the earlier Latin was about new birth, which I
Yeah.
thought was very interesting.
I love it.
I
I love it.
know.
'Cause, like, how many times would you say you've found that you've recreated yourself inadvertently through something as well as like very consciously through something? Like, um, and how you identify as a person sometimes is linked to your recreation activities. I'm an athlete. I'm a volleyball player.
Mhm,
I'm a crocheter.
mhm,
I'm a quilter.
mhm.
And with all of this, I'm a dog owner and my dogs come to join us. And like we have identities that are all a part of this, that are a part of you.
That's right. And often, well, what's interesting for me is when people so identify with their work
Hmm.
that that's who they are.
And they've lost sight of everything else outside of it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and what I notice is that when people come to the end of their work life, their
It,
career, professional life, business, and they retire,
yeah.
often they don't know what to do. They're lost. And for me, that's really the work-life balance is like completely out of sync. Work has taken such a priority in life that what else has there been? And
What else do I show for it? Who else
exactly.
am
And
I?
what do I do now?
And where else is my value?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of people find value, self-value and self-worth in their work because it's often the first place that we get recognition,
That's right.
right? Like, whether it's monetary recognition where we get raises, or if we get recognition from coworkers, hey, that was a job really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you getting that recognition in your personal life?
That's right. That's
And so, like, where do we start to build that self value and that self-worth? We can do that through our recreation.
right. Exactly. So the other thing that occurs to me is that also in our work, we often have a title.
Hmm.
And the thing that I notice sometimes is that when people are finished their work life, they they don't let go of the title. They'll say, "Well, I was blah blah blah. I
Yeah.
was blah blah blah." Well, So
But what are you now?
yeah, what are you now? Exactly. It doesn't
I'd
matter
be
what
like,
you were
I'm
now.
retired.
No, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter what you were then. It's like, that's
No.
over. It's like, how about right now? And I think that's people have a difficult time then defining who they are outside of that workplace, unless they've been very active outside of work with other
Right.
things.
True.
Yeah,
True.
yeah,
Very true.
yeah. So tell us a little bit more about how people some of the situations we've just spoken about where people are kind of like so immersed in work. How do people kind of get out of that? Where do people begin to develop a recreational side of their life?
I think it really just comes from communicating with friends. If you have a friend group, well, maybe like seeing what are some activities that you guys can share together. Or if you're an individual who is independent, trying different things, like actually June is Parks and Rec month.
Mm,
And a lot of our municipalities have um, even more subsidized programming. So, like going out and trying a one off program. I know Amherstburg Libro Center just hosted like a free pickleball. You
oh,
didn't have to sign up, you could just drop in and come learn how to play.
mhm.
If you didn't like it, there was no commitment. If you loved it, there's a community that's waiting to play with
Right,
you.
right.
Um, I think it's just really about um, you can look through municipalities' websites. They all have recreation programming that they curate and offer for every age group. We often think about recreation through the municipalities for our kids, and we've got soccer tryouts and soccer signups happening,
Right.
and we've got summer camp happening, but they also have I know the Windsor municipality had a cooking class, and
Mhm,
every week was a different culinary experience. So
mhm,
maybe one week
mhm,
you're cooking curry, the next week you're learning
mhm,
sushi.
mhm,
Like you can travel the world through different food experiences. They also have a somebody that is going to be teaching crocheting once a week. So there's publicly funded things like through those means. But I mean, a simple Google search of what is one
yeah.
thing that interests you, or try even what is something you never think you'll ever want to try,
Yes, yes.
and go outside your comfort zone and see if there's like a one-off class.
Yeah, yeah.
Or there was a community called Meetups,
Hmm.
and they wanted to go for a hike.
Yeah.
So there's a meetup, and you don't have to be connected to anybody. You can
Mhm.
just drop in. It's
Oh, cool.
it's a place that you can go on your own, and you can still go with a group.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
know a lot of the things that I'm talking about are very group orientated because I am a very people person.
Yeah,
I like to share my experiences with other people, but that's not true for everybody.
that's right.
So, like, if you're an individual that wants to experience leisure activities and find things to do on your own, I feel like you can do the same kind of things. And, like, if you like hiking, there's an app called All Trails.
Mm,
That's a great app that has trails marked from all over the place, and you can explore different regions safely and comfortably, and you
hmm,
can see what the activity level is
mhm,
through an app like that and go on your own. Just
mhm.
if you're going on your own, tell somebody where you're going and when you're
Right,
coming back,
right, right.
just
Well,
for
and
safety measures.
absolutely, and I think that's a really good distinction between, active and passive, and you mentioned that earlier, that
Mhm.
recreation, we often think about, cycling or hiking or jogging or kayaking or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's also a more passive recreation, because if we go back to the definition, it's really about refreshing ourselves. And so for many people, it could be just a quiet hobby where they're sitting maybe at their desk, they're collecting something, or they're maybe doing art, or or cooking can be
One
an individual
it,
recreation as well.
one of my professors, her identified favorite recreation is getting a caramel macchiato from Starbucks,
Mhm.
dropping her kids off at their activities, and then taking that time to sit in silence.
Yeah.
And sometimes doing nothing is as important as doing something.
Yes.
And what I want to say about that is like doing nothing is we are a very overall we are a very go 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 do society. Um, do not always have to be busy. It's about just like you can take space and time for yourself to recharge, and sometimes recharging looks like standing still,
Yeah.
which is very hard for people.
For some people, yes.
Yeah, some people.
Yes. Some people, like you and I, it's very hard. For me, it's like, oh my goodness, I have to be doing something. And then I have
Mhm.
to remind myself, it's like, it's okay. Let me just
Oh yeah.
catch my breath, do some breathing. Like,
About 15 years ago, I started working with this beautiful life coach. Her name's Shirley Palmer. And she challenged me to doing meditation in the morning,
mm-hmm,
doing reflection, and being a very hyperactive person and go, 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 go. I was like, oh, I can't sit for 5 minutes. You want me to do what? Hey. So I was like, okay, look, challenge accepted. I will start. I needed help. I needed help to be able to sit there.
mm-hmm,
So my mind is always busy.
yeah,
I started with meditation music and a timer.
mm-hmm,
I chose a place in my home that had nothing on the walls and was like just it was simple.
mm-hmm,
And I would go and I would get up, make my coffee or my tea, go and sit, and I'd set my timer for 5 minutes. And it took time to recondition
mm-hmm,
myself,
yeah,
but eventually 5 minutes turned into 20 minutes. Sitting for 20 minutes turned into 25, 25 turned into 45. And it's like,
mm-hmm,
um, I I could exercise that capacity of sitting still and
mm-hmm,
reflecting. And
mm-hmm,
it's like, it's a practice.
yeah,
And it was something I enjoyed and I do take on in my leisure time now, but it's also considered leisure just to
mm-hmm,
sit and be still as much as it is to be active.
yeah, yeah. That's a great distinction, because the other extreme is that people have so many recreational activities that there's no pause
Mhm.
to really think about, well, what am I actually doing? Like,
Mhm.
how is this helping me to be more myself, and more in touch with myself, my soul, kind of thing. So yeah, that's the other extreme. It's like being able to take that time, whether it's
And
with
integrate it.
meditation or breath work or yoga or whatever, is, oh, yeah, it's a
I
really,
think something also that's very important to talk about when it comes to recreation is that not everybody's recreation is the same.
right.
Um, Say you have parents and children, although they go on vacation together,
Hmm.
and that vacation to the outside world is considered recreation.
Hmm.
That vacation is not necessarily a vacation to every single person
Hmm.
on that trip.
Hmm.
Because if the mom or the dad is responsible for setting everything up, packing all the food, making sure all the bags are packed, that's all work. That
Interesting.
is not that individual's vacation.
Right.
and maybe they do or don't recognize it, but it's another viewpoint of
Hmm.
not all recreation is enjoyed the same by all parties enjoying it.
Right.
So,
Right.
like, think about and some of your family vacations that you've gone on. Um, it's like as the adult, you're making sure all the kids are having fun and their
Mm-hmm.
activities are enjoyed. And
Mm-hmm.
did you get downtime to enjoy an activity on your
Mm-hmm.
vacation too, or were you really busy entertaining them the whole time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What makes me think about vacations I've been on with my adult siblings, and
Uh-huh.
I just assume they're going to enjoy whatever I get organized.
And some people like organizing, and other people do it because it needs to get done.
Exactly. So I
Well,
remember one time we were all out in Alberta, and we went whitewater rafting, and my one brother was on board and my sister was on board, and there were two other people that came along with us, and my other brother was like, no, I'm not going. It's like, well, why not? Just thought, this is such a great thing to do. Why wouldn't everybody want to do this?
right?
Yeah. So, so I mean, that's just on that lighter note, but it's true, isn't it? When
Yeah.
people go there's some recreation activity, it's like not everybody necessarily is actually refreshing themselves. They're not
Hmm.
recreating themselves because there's some work element to it, isn't there? Yeah, that's a good point.
Definitely. And when you think about recreation and like the Webster Dictionary definition of it, and like what social psychologists view as it is like it is free
Mm-hmm.
time from commitment and duties,
Mm-hmm.
work and duties. And so the super mom and the super dad or the super grandparent who is orchestrating and organizing everything, they may enjoy it, but it may not be their actual recreation.
I think about when my grandkids come for 2 weeks in the summer. I'm
Your
so
grandkids,
exhausted.
your grandkids are busy,
Yeah, and they have a great time, but
but you need a vacation from your
I
vacation to
do.
that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm organizing, I'm getting them here, I'm getting them there. I want to make sure they're having a good time. And uh, you know, yeah, it's exhausting. I really like that definition that it's free from work and duties.
Hmm.
Duties, because sometimes we don't think about making sure the meals are there for them, that their laundry is done on vacation, et cetera, et cetera. We don't think about that as work.
Did Johnny put sunscreen on 6 times so he's not burnt in the
Exactly.
sun?
Making sure the picnic is packed, and
Mhm.
that we don't forget everything. So that's really interesting. I have to think more about that. But it's also interesting because as my grandkids get older, then we start to spread out those duties, so it's not just me. So they take some of the tasks on, so that
Yeah.
it's more shared. So it's great, and yeah, important for people to think about that when they
It's
go on
important for
vacation.
people to think about it when they're thinking about, their summer is their downtime off with their kids.
Yeah.
It's their like a lot of teachers, it's their time off too. And you can't separate being a parent and your time off, right? Like,
Right.
not everybody has those luxuries, but being aware of it
Mm-hmm.
makes
Yes.
taking those hour breaks or that coffee in serenity or a glass of
Yes.
wine
Yes.
poolside
Yes.
or whatever it is that makes you feel recharged, or a run with your friend, you
Mm-hmm.
know, all the more important and really valuable for the overall health uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of a person.
And I think just on that note, I think that, you mentioned health and how important recreation is for our health. Talk a
Mhm.
little bit more about that.
Well, recreation is really seen on improving not just our physical health, but our mental health and our emotional health. Emotional health is the ability to control big swings of mood or emotions. Mental health is being able to feel balanced and not overburdened, and being able to cope with what life is throwing at you. Physical health is our capability of our capabilities of physicality. So,
Mhm,
not just running and playing sports and things like that, but being active within your own means. And recreation plays a huge role in all of that. I just wrote a paper on the sense of community in a curling club.
hmm,
And curling clubs are set up very specifically to be a social network.
mhm,
And when you have a healthy social network of people that you can fall back on, it bolsters your emotional health and your mental health
mhm,
while doing something that's physical.
mhm.
So, um, recreation plays like a really important impact on helping to find all of these elements and keep them in balance.
And I just want to add that I think it also, well, I don't think, I know it is also good for our spiritual health, because from my
Absolutely.
perspective, our spiritual health is about being able to experience joy. I think that
Yeah.
emotionally we're happy, we're sad, whatever, but joy is really on a soul level. And I think when we
And
refresh
mhm,
ourselves, we experience joy. We also experience gratitude. And I think stepping back and
mhm,
being able to be grateful to, all of the things that are around us, the world, everything, and in even our lives. I think we can do that. It's like taking that meditation time. Suddenly there's a different perspective because you're pausing, or that caramel macchiato and the quiet. It's like it's that time to really look at, mm, life is pretty awesome.
you can really feel your feet on the ground. I think it's important
Yeah,
too when we're talking about spiritual health that that doesn't necessarily tie to religion.
exactly.
And spiritual health and well-being is about being really able to embrace who you are and how you want to present in the world. And like you said, having that gratitude and that trust in yourself and in your intuition also is a huge element of it.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to some good recreation this summer.
You have anything planned?
Well, my grandkids are coming for 2 weeks, so that
Hmm.
will be a lot of activity. We're going to go to Montreal to see Cirque du Soleil, and
Awesome.
yeah, and gardening. Gardening is a real good recreation for me, even though there's a part of it that is I have to process the food, but I love to dig in the dirt and I love to see the plants growing. So for me, gardening is a huge thing in the summer. So yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting that you talk about gardening, and it's something that you find rejuvenating
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
some people find looking at their lawns and their gardens as a huge chore.
Yeah.
And that element of what's recreation versus duty and
Yeah.
being tied to your home is a huge discussion in a lot of
Mm.
recreation in some manners.
Hmm.
And how do we create a home space that's one that we really can enjoy? And is it being a minimal gardener, or is it like yourself having lots of fruit and vegetable beds and flower beds
Mm.
and going out with your morning coffee. And personally, I'm with you. I like getting my fingers in the dirt. I go barefoot. My feet are muddy. And there is something about being connected to the ground in such
Yes.
a natural way that feels so good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
And I think it's important knowing yourself, in like an important element of getting to know yourself is what are you doing and what are you creating around your home life that embraces what you truly enjoy versus you're doing because of social standards.
that's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, very important.
Gardening sounds great.
It is great. I'm excited. I'm excited. I love to watch everything grow. It's like amazing to me. You talked earlier about my ferns. You're right. When we left, they were this high. Now
They're
they're
so
4 feet high, and it's
huge.
just lush. They're lush. I love it.
I could not get over seeing that yesterday. I was looking at the ferns thinking, I feel like I'm in a tropical paradise this week.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so gardening is good for me, but I totally get the other side of it of sometimes it's too much. It's like
Mhm,
there are I think it's really important for people to decide, okay, what is recreation for me? Because there are times like coming home from vacation now, being in the garden for the first 3 days was actually work. It was not recreation, it was work. Now that it's in shape, it's
mhm,
like now I can go out and enjoy it.
mhm,
I think that's the distinction of, okay, am I really enjoying what I'm doing? Now, it doesn't mean it's easy. Like I think about some of the recreation I've done in the past. Oh my goodness, it's like scare the hell out of me, like learning to scuba dive. It's like, oh my God, just like I got claustrophobic, but I
But
worked at
there's
it and
that
I was able to stay
element,
under.
yeah, but there's that element of recreating yourself, and if you don't know what you don't like, you'll never figure out what you do like.
That's right. That's absolutely true. Well said.
And you kinda have to be, are you willing? I feel like in my world, I feel like I have to be willing to go outside my comfort zone to find the things that really light up my soul.
Mhm.
I never would have known how much I love scuba diving
Right.
if I hadn't taken it on because I was afraid of it because
Yeah.
you hear all the negative.
Yeah.
And being in that world, you're talking about feeling like claustrophobic. And it's like, I feel free.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so that willingness to experience and explore opportunities.
That's right. Well, I think about when I did sailing lessons,
Mhm,
my daughter did them with me, and I loved it. I loved it. But what happened to her is she discovered how much she loved being on the water. And as a result of that, now she has a paddleboard and she's out like 2 or 3 times a week. She absolutely loves being on the water. Maybe she would have discovered that anyway, because she goes canoeing and kayaking, whatever. But that experience 8 years ago really
mhm.
shifted the way that she related to water. And I think that you're right. It's about trying things and thinking about, well, like there's so many things to try, there's so many things to do, and just kind of looking at, okay, what new thing am I going to try next? Why not?
I had a summer or like a span where I just said yes to everything.
Mm,
Within reason, like there was nothing that was gonna be like cause serious harm or
right, right.
anything like that. Nothing illegal and whatnot. But I would say yes. And I ended up going to like beatbox competitions that year and going to like Formula One races, or not Formula One, but like Grand Prix races,
Mhm.
and like I learned how to do origami,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
like I learned so much about what I don't like and what I do like, that it gave me a better perspective on how I wanted to continue. And just by taking down those walls of no,
Hmm.
opened that up.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You know what? It makes me think of Joe Dispenza's work and his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, that you have to step out of the routine. It's like, okay, I'm just going to always be doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Where does that lead? So being able, I love that, having a summer of saying yes.
Yeah, just say yes.
That's a big challenge.
With what you were just saying, I've seen this quote as I'm like scrolling through Facebook. It said, "You don't get to where you want to be with the same attitude and skills that you have right now, or you'd already be there."
That's right. That's right. Good one. Good one.
Yeah, I loved it. I was like, oh, it's a good reminder. Being open.
That's right. That's right. Very good. Any last words for our listeners say?
I think just have fun embracing it and don't forget the value of your own personal time and your boundaries
Mhm.
and making sure that if you choose to do something and you don't like it, it's not a fail.
Right.
It's not a fail. It's a win.
Right.
And if you choose to do something and you're like, holy crap, that was amazing, go out and do it again.
That's
As long
right.
as it wasn't illegal
Right.
or gonna hurt you or anybody else.
Exactly. Exactly. And also for people to look wherever they are, wherever you are, to look at your own local recreation centers, the tourism uh, uh
Yeah, look at your tourism
department.
boards.
Yeah, all
Like
of that.
our tourism boards have some interesting like events that are happening for one-off events. Our municipalities have like because like June is Parks and Rec month,
Hmm.
and it's
Hmm.
about getting people reconnected with that. There are a whole bunch of great activities that are one-offs,
Hmm.
as well as like scheduled programming to come and try. Um, in the Windsor Essex region, like we have some great programming for kids, adults, and seniors, even like outside of our municipalities. There's some great private practices that have fun recreation. There's the art lab. We have like SUP and River Canard Canoe Company
Hmm.
and Gilly Wings. They have some cool like um, it's like a paddle and and like a brewery combination that they've got going on. And there's a knitting club or a crochet club on Ottawa Street. Like just if you have something that you're interested in, I would say put it up on Instagram or like search it in Instagram or I'm gonna date myself, Facebook, because that's all I use. And you'll see a huge variety of options, even if it's just ideas to do on your own or
Yes.
it's a community to go and join and try.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I came across I love going to the Windsor International Film Festival in the fall, but I just noticed that they're having films on the river, I think, again this year, which they did during COVID.
nice
So
outdoor
again,
movies in the park.
looking at what they have to offer, there's so many organizations in terms of things to do.
Absolutely. And music, like there's great kind of concerts and that small shows and that happening. Um, as long as you're doing it because you want to experience it and explore it and enjoy trying to find new elements of yourself or rekindle connections to yourself, I think that's wonderful. I just getting out and trying something.
That's right. And to remember that the whole idea is to refresh and recreate. It's like it's balancing and
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
To recreate and reconnect with yourself and
right.
refresh your time away from our duties and chores of work.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Okay, thank you so
Speaking of, I'm going to go back to my duties of school.
right, right. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you. And thank you for having me, Crystal.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm just going to let's see, what am I doing here? Okay, so thank you very much. And Sarah,
It's a
and thank
very
you.
different conversation today than the other day.
It's always a surprise. So I will be back recreating and recreating over I will be doing all of that over the next 2 months. So I will not be podcasting over the summer, but I will be back in September with a journey to inner wisdom. And I hope you will join me then as I continue to explore the many paths of our journeys. Thanks again.